Hey, everybody. You're listening to So Many Sequels. I'm Josh.
I'm Garrett.
And I'm David.
I forgot the book club for movies part. That's what we're doing here.
My God, that's our marketing pitch.
Yeah. I know. That's our whole slogan. It's our book club for movies. And today and this month, the book club theme or movie club theme is Oscars. Garrett's got the hat there. I think I have an Oscars hat somewhere. I should have got it next episode.
Yeah.
But we're doing specifically some of the best writing at the Oscars, movies that have been nominated or won any of the writing categories over the years. We've been talking about Good Will Hunting. You can go find that episode on our website, somanysequels.com. Subscribe there. You can get videos on YouTube and on Spotify, and you get the podcast anywhere you get podcasts. We had a good time talking about that movie. And today we're talking about Do the Right Thing. We've got some other Oscar-related stuff coming up, including some coverage of this year's awards themselves. So be sure to stay tuned for that coming up. I'm excited. Have you guys seen? I don't know why. I know none of us have seen all of them. How many of the Best Picture nominees have you seen? Have you gotten close to all of them? Yeah.
No,
I'm still missing a few myself.
John, No, I'm not close.
I was gonna say I'd
have to look at the list.
I had a feeling that you
not many.
Yeah. Yeah. Valid.
You? I feel like you're probably the most prepared.
I am, I think, but even I'm still I'm missing like Sentimental Value. I'm missing Train Dreams. I still haven't watched F1. I think there's a couple others in there, and I'll be honest. The ones I haven't seen yet are the ones I kind of don't want.
3,
I feel like I don't really want to watch.
I've seen 4.
And that's
F1
not...
I recommend watching F1. It's fun.
Did you liked it?
I liked it a
lot. I've seen Sinners. I've seen Train Dreams. I've seen Frankenstein, and I've seen One Battle After Another. Sentimental Value, The Secret Agent, F1, Hamnet, and Marty Supreme remain out there for me in terms of on Begonia. Need to see that as well.
Excellent. All right. I was just looking up the nominees for this year's writing awards. Just to tease real quick, we've got for Best Original Screenplay, Blue Moon. It Was Just an Accident, Marty Supreme, Sentimental Value, and Sinners. And then the adapted is Begonia, Frankenstein, Hamnet, One Battle After Another, and Train Dreams. I've definitely seen more of the best adapted. So yeah, go check those out. We'll be talking about best writing all month long and the Oscars themselves a little later. But this week we're talking about Do the Right Thing, which was your pick, Garrett. Tell us why you picked it before we kind of launch into the background.
There's a lot of controversy that surrounds this movie because a lot of people believe that it should have won the Oscar. It did not. A lot of people believe that it should have won Best Picture. It did not.
That's not, yeah.
And so I think, and recently we talked about the movie that did win in this category, which was, I've gone blank on it.
Dead Poet Society.
Dead Poet Society, yes, thank you. And so I think that we are in a position to have a very interesting discussion, having looked at those, and with the Oscars coming up. And I've never seen it before. So this was my first time seeing it, and so it was one that I definitely feel like I needed to check off a list.
100%. I had never seen it before either. It was one that was always kind of out there because I would hear Do the Right Thing in film conversations a lot, but just never really managed to get a time to sit and see it. And so I was really excited when you picked it to go into this, even though it's, not really, obviously, it's not really my culture or my background. So there's an element of I'm going to view some of these elements as an outsider, but I really thought it was very informative and honestly spoke a lot to the way that I mean, it feels like way ahead of its time when you consider, but I think for what it has to say and for the moments it references, there are a lot of things just in the background of this movie that reference real life events that are long forgotten because of the way that the African American community is treated, the way the media moves on to different events over time. So I was really fascinated by this movie as a whole.
Yeah, so the premise of it, as described here on the Letterboxd site, is Sal is the Italian owner of a pizzeria in Brooklyn. A neighborhood local, bugging out, becomes upset when he sees that the pizzeria's wall of fame exhibits only Italian actors. Bugging Out believes a pizzeria in a black neighborhood should showcase black actors, but Sal disagrees. The wall becomes a symbol of racism and hate to Bugging Out and to other people in the neighborhood, and tensions rise. This movie is what's really interesting about it is it's one of those movies that feels like almost like a slice of life story to me,
Mm-hmm.
but it also does follow an ongoing storyline, which is you see it a lot more easily when it is spelled out like Letterbox does here, because otherwise the movie just kind of goes through a really hot summer in a neighborhood where tensions are already really high. I had seen this movie once before myself, but it had been a really long time. I this is one of the first Criterion Blu-rays that I bought, so that was it was really fun to go back and watch that. I didn't get a chance to go through all of it, but there was a ton of great special features on it. Great essays in the book. Highly recommend those, as usual.
Very cool.
Yeah, but I watched the first. I bought it back in 2020, I think, and back when we were all locked up inside, and this was one of the movies I watched, and it was really interesting from that perspective because there's something about the atmosphere of the movie that makes you feel trapped. The characters feel trapped, and I don't know. Watching it in the summer of 2020 felt similar in a weird way, but
Sure. Tensions were high. I mean, again, that's
yeah,
why
and
we
tensions
can
were
just
high
go
then
ahead
too.
and kind of get into it because one of the things about this movie this movie came out in 1989, and so through some of the interviews that I have seen and some of the reviews that I had seen in 1989, a lot of people thought that this movie was way over the top, was going to incite riots from black people who would see it, and they were genuinely concerned about, you know, the tensions and how it would be perceived. You fast forward to 2020 and you have someone who was murdered in the same vein as this was in 1989. You have George Floyd, you have Eric Gardner, you have all of these situations that just reinforce what this is, what is seen, and what was thought to be so unrealistic in 1989. And we see where we are. And again, yeah, you fast forward it to 2020, there was so much tension. There was so much pressure. And that's what, the purpose of this movie is supposed to make you feel hot. The colors that they use, the filters that they use on the camera, all of that just makes it feel like sweaty and that you are involved in this. And yeah, everybody's just simmering and it boils and boils and boils until the end. And very few, I mean, it's pretty, in a weird way, it's kind of slow because it is a slice of life movie. You're following these things, but like you're also so interested, and every character is dialed in as to what they're doing. And so you're following along, like, what is going to happen? Like, when is something finally going to blow up?
Well, you have this pressure point. You have this, everything is fairly routine, like everybody's kind of set in their ways. You have, whether it is Bugging Out or whether it's Mookie, played by Spike Lee, it's like, he's going about kind of, you get the impression this is what they do every day. Danny Aiello's character of Sal in his restaurant with John Turturro and Richard, I think it's Richard Edison who plays his other son. They have this pizza place in the neighborhood, so it's kind of a gathering. It's one of the gathering places in the neighborhood,
and it's been there forever, right? Like it's a well-established, known business in the neighborhood.
I really liked Ossie Davis in this, who plays DeMayor, and his kind of place within the community of people are kind of like, yeah. It felt familiar in some respects to parts of my childhood, while obviously being very, specific to this particular neighborhood. Felt very lived in and like a very real world. Then you've also got Samuel L. Jackson's character hosting the radio show, kind of serving as a, I don't know, for lack of a better word, serving as like, a Greek chorus at times, kind of setting some things up, kind of kind of being a little break between scenes. You just have, Cap Sam Jackson come on and have him, really light up the mic. And so I thought that it's built in such a way that, like, if you're not the kind of person who's used to that type of movie, you will love it by the end, because I think this is one of the better movies in this style that I've ever seen. And the way that pressure builds, though, over time is like, you don't think like that. You don't think the situation with bugging out is going to like escalate into, where it goes, but it does. Like, it just like slowly things are building. And Bill Nunn's character, Radio Raheem, the way that kind of intersects and comes in later, and it's like, it doesn't feel like it should reach the point that it does, but it, the way these tensions just escalate, and the kind of like almost like just like the how preventable so much of it was makes it even more tragic. Like, it's just like it would have just taken like everybody just had taken a moment, but we couldn't get there. Um, yeah.
Well, and that's where the title comes in, is everybody feels like they are doing the right thing by what they believe. And this is where some of those questions come in. And you look at it now and you fast forward and you still have these questions that cause these kinds of responses for people. Bugging Out is frustrated that there's no black people on Sal's Wall of Fame in a black neighborhood. Sal is an Italian American. He's got a bunch of Italian actors on there. I argue that if they haven't been in your restaurant, you shouldn't have a Wall of Fame.
I think that is a very clear cut, like non-controversial take. It should be,
Yeah.
Like, that eliminates all controversy right there.
Have they been in there?
Have they been here? No.
Okay, well, then who cares?
Let's to address the elephant in the room. We're three white guys. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
If that wasn't obvious.
Surprise to the audio listeners.
Yeah, for the audio listeners, hopefully we didn't ruin anything for you there, but we're three white guys. And we live in Oklahoma, but we are not.
We're not setting this up well.
We're not necessarily what you might visualize for Oklahomans, I think.
Yeah. Well, no, we might be what you visualize, but
but I think we can have a conversation. So some of these conversation points are going to be a little difficult, but I think we can have an interesting conversation about about Danny Aiello's character and his family, because this is a character who is coming into this community, right? And he even states that the reason he's in that community is because having a pizzeria as an Italian guy, we're not Italians either, but I think we'll be okay here. As an Italian person in their community, pizzerias are a dime a dozen. So he goes where there's a need. So his relationship with this community, even if the people kind of pretend that they're friends, it's transactional. Like, he is there to make money because he can't make money in his own neighborhood. And so his interaction with these people has an underlying sense of hostility. And his son's really, at least John Turturro really expresses that, that he doesn't want to be in this community. He doesn't want to be around these people. And so that, those levels of how Danny Aiello's character isn't expressly, racist to begin with. He is, providing service, but he's also not, he would be out of there if he had an opportunity that was better than this. You know what I mean? He's not there out of the goodness of his heart or anything like that.
But at the same time, there are moments where he talks about how much the community has meant to him. He talks about how much it means to him that the people in there have grown up on his food. And he shows that at the end. He makes sure that he opens the door. He might be frustrated by it, but he still loves this community. At least that was kind of my take, is that he has grown to love being in this community and providing food and a place for people to go, which is what you hope a local business is wanting and known for. But again, I talked about, you fast forward to these situations and you have similar things where you have cakes that refuse same-sex marriages. You have bakeries that refuse same-sex marriages, and the rulings have been that businesses have the right to do that, whether it's right or wrong. And then again, I see Bugging Out's perspective. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I understand where he's coming from. But yeah, the escalation of that situation, again, much like anything else, selling cigarettes on the side of the road, not doing anything on the side of the road, being black on the side of the road. These are things that should not escalate to death.
Right.
No,
Right.
the complexity of managing these relationships and managing these feelings, like, whereas for certain, like, even if you're a kid, like, I think there's a perspective that most white people have, sort of inherent, whether it's unchecked or unrecognized senses of bias about the black community. And so, like, how I think this movie does a good job of sort of exploring the complexity there. And ultimately, I mean, I guess we're sort of tiptoeing around this thing, but we can get in. I like, we can talk about how it climaxes with this big argument between Bugging Out and Raheem and oh gosh, what is Danny's character? Sal, right? Going back and forth over the music. The music's too loud. Eventually, he finally breaks out the bat and bashes it. They tussle into the street. Everybody's yelling, and really, I feel like there was still a chance for de-escalation until the cops roll up. That's when I was like, oh no, because I honestly didn't know actually how it ended. I'd kind of seen some clips from the movie before, but never really the ending. And as it played out, I was like, oh, this is getting very, very real and very, very familiar. And it's kind of crazy to see a moment captured in 1989 that has unfortunately played out, I
It
don't
just
know,
keeps happening.
hundreds of times since then. I
Yeah.
mean, you want to talk about high profile cases, you could maybe just say like 10 times since then, but like hundreds of times we've had uh almost this exact same type of situation of like, just stop, just he's done, stop choking him. Like, what are you still doing?
And everybody, well, not everybody, but people react the same way. They always somehow find a way to make it their fault that they got killed. I don't.
Yeah, and the question of doing the right thing. I mean, so I heard Spike Lee. I watched Spike Lee speak about this specifically, and it's funny that so the question of why did Mookie throw the trash can? Because it's been apparently interpreted and misinterpreted and many different ways. So I want to lead you down on one. So as the fight and the threats, because after Raheem is dead, the community is really mad at Sal and his group. Even though the cops are the kind of ones that are mostly to blame, in my opinion. But they're
Yeah.
really mad at Sal, and the chance here, Mookie picks up the trash can, throws it through the window, and now we're in full on riot mode. We're burning the place down. Things are going, things are really kicking off. Cops, firemen are coming in. They're spraying people with hoses. Spike has said that he has been asked many times, why did Mookie throw the trash can? Because Mookie had seemingly a very decent relationship with Sal. Sal had just said that he thinks of him like one of his sons, and he was going to make him a full time employee, or you know, and there have been some who have theorized that the reason that Mookie threw the trash can was because he knew that if he did that, the crowd would focus on destroying the place and not hurting Sal and not hurting his sons. And Spike has said, no, that's not why he did it. He goes, the only people who have ever asked me why Mookie threw the trash can are white people. Every black person knows why he threw the trash can. And that explosion and that release, in that moment for Mookie, that, that's him doing the right thing. And that's a very hard concept, because it's very nebulous at any given
Yeah,
moment, but it's what it is.
the movie ends with a pair of kind of conflicting quotations, ideologies from Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. And I'm just going to read parts of both because they're kind of long in full. But the first one is from Martin Luther King, which is violence as a way of achieving racial justice is both impractical and immoral. It is impractical because it is a descending spiral ending in destruction for all. The old law of an eye for an eye leaves everybody blind. Essentially arguing that, violence is never the answer. And then we get this quote from Malcolm X next, which is, I think there are plenty of good people in America, but there are also plenty of bad people in America. And the bad ones are the ones who seem to have all the power and be in these positions to block things that you and I need. Because this is the situation, you and I have to preserve the right to do what is necessary to bring an end to that situation. And it doesn't mean that I advocate violence, but at the same time, I am not against using violence in self defense. And there are points in my life where both of those quotations have resonated with me. And lately, like the Malcolm X one resonates more, particularly that first part about the bad ones are the ones who seem to have all the power and be in these positions to block things that you and I need. That
Yeah.
feels more real to me than anything.
And
And this movie is older, 1 year older than me.
I don't want to misquote Lee on this because I think he has said that he put the Malcolm one second, the Malcolm X quote second, because it's ultimately I think the way he wants, like he feels, and it's the one that he kind of wants to resonate with people more. But I think that within the community, the Black community, the African American community, Malcolm and Martin Luther King's sort of styles or their philosophies, they have to like almost always be considered together. They're thought leaders in this
Sure.
movement that have lasted for decades, and so like one is like, it really, like he wanted to have both in there. He thought they were suggesting it's like one or the other, but he ultimately he wanted them both to kind of
Well, and
just have that contrast for people.
that goes back again to that love hate monologue from Radio Raheem, where love is shown through nonviolence, and sometimes hate is more shown through violence, and there are times when both are needed. Um, and that's just the way life is. You can live with the love, and you can live with violence, but to act like you don't have either is a lie. We all have that, and it all is a continuing struggle about which one takes over and how it takes over. And so for this, there's these little things, they add up. Sal thinks that he has the authority. It's his place, so he's trying to be a tough guy. The whole purpose of fight the power is to fight the authority, right? And so by him demanding, commanding, I said it, there was no conversation there either. There's just a lack of humanity. There later in the movie, it's also Radio Raheem points it out. He's like, he didn't even say please. Now, should he be walking into a business with radio blasting full hours? No. But that's where you can be like, hey man, can you turn it down a little bit? You can lead with the kindness. And if the kindness isn't received, and that is where the hostile comes from, that's where that second quote should come in. You are allowed to have both, but how you use them and the order in which you use them, I think matters. You should lead with love and kindness and then use the violence and self-defense. As he said, if the kindness isn't working, you can't just be kind all the time.
No, you have to have. I mean, the Raheem, points this out with his love and hate rings. And sometimes love is what you lead with, but you have to have hate. Kind of is what it's unfortunate, but it's where a lot of power comes from for rectifying certain things. And that's what Mookie yells right before he throws the trash can into the window. He picks up the trash can and right before he throws it through, he yells hate because that's what is needed in the moment for for the catharsis for them to push
To move
through
on.
the anguish of that. And it's
Once the pressure
hard
blows,
to it's hard to yeah. It's hard to reconcile there's an idealism of like, well, you always lead with with love and kindness and things like that, but in moments of great anguish, like it's hard to be considerate of how you do that when all you really want is just you want to snap and you want to break something. And the people who are in the highest levels of power, they want you to be docile and to not respond and to you know when injustice happens to just look the other way. And the hate isn't for necessarily everyone that's against, it's for the powers, it's for the institutions and the powers that created the situation. um I also wanted to point out, so I want to talk about sort of the writing aspect of it in a second, but I also wanted to point out because we hadn't pointed this out earlier. But from a performances standpoint, I think everybody's really solid in this. Even some of these actors are very young in these roles.
Little
Also,
baby
we
Martin Lawrence.
baby Martin Lawrence is in there. We get an introduction like this. So this is the first film for Rosie Perez,
Yeah, and
and
the
she
first
was
one for Martin Lawrence. Yeah.
so they were very good in this. We also just a nerd shout out. We one of the characters highlights Black Panther as a comic. That was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Um, but everybody's really solid on this. But on the writing standpoint, I think it really is kind of amazing because this comes out just for the screen. This isn't an adapted work. So um, really spelling out what feels very raw without feeling I don't know without feeling too it feels raw, but it doesn't feel like amateurish in any way. Like it is very strong right out the gate, and it puts you in this world so quickly and so perfectly. What do you guys think about the let's talk about this as a best writing nominee.
I think what's great about it is how different it is. And I think this, I think it should work in its favor, but I wonder if it's what ultimately led to it not being chosen. We discussed at the top of the show here that Dead Poet Society is what won in the end, which is a great movie. We've covered it. You can go to so many sequels.com and listen to our review of it. We all loved it. But it is, I guess you would say, a more traditional story versus this one, which really doesn't even have a protagonist, kind of by design. Um, and it's told in such a unique way that I kind of wonder, but do you think that hurt it in the end for at the time? I just wonder if it would be if that swing would have been appreciated more or differently today.
This movie was definitely ahead of its time. I mean, again, you look at Hollywood and especially how the Oscars were at the time. I mean, listen, it's old white Hollywood. This is not a movie that is going to resonate with them.
Also that, yeah.
They might
I think
appreciate it enough to put it in the category, but then they're like, that's as fun as it gets. Yeah, look at us, just give it to this one. And again, that's not to smash on Dead Poet Society. It was an incredible and is an incredible movie. It stands up.
Yeah.
But again, it does go back to that traditional style. It's very wrapped up. It kind of ends, and this one leaves you lingering. And I think that causes a lot of problems with people, especially at the time, because it doesn't wrap things up. It leaves you questioning, it leaves you wondering. And for me, I see that as a strength, especially because it leads to
Agreed.
these discussions like this where you can look at things and analyze them in a certain way. And I think that, again, with it over time, it has just become stronger. And looking at the reviews in '89 and the fear that people had, I think that there were just too many structural barriers against it.
Think to not to that it's sometimes the Academy feels like they're full of dummies, but
A lot of times
this
they
is
are.
gonna sound like a knock, but it's not necessarily a knock. It's but Dead Poet Society. Dead Poet. We reviewed this late last year. It has a sad ending, right? But there are clear good guys and bad guys in Dead Poet Society. Not necessarily black hats and white hats, but there's a clear who's actually in the wrong and who is like kind of being martyred, and like they're really like you feel good for them because like hey they stood by something and do the right thing. There is some muddiness. There is some unclears. Like it's not like nobody's like just a clear cut villain like or anything like this. There's like it's dripping with really nuanced characters. And so for 1989, like you said, for a mostly, for an industry that is still very white, this was the kind of movie that I think might have shooken some things, but wasn't, was hitting at a time where it was just like they weren't ready for that. But their kids are going to love it. This was a movie ultimately, and it's big, and it being snubbed for Best Picture as well. I think those two things did a lot for waking up other certain people. I think it actually really helped pave the way for future films. Not that Oscars are still so white, but I think that this was one of the first major films to really show how good there is outside of kind of the typical Hollywood situations. I mean, the other films nominated against it, Sex Lies and Videotape by Steven Soderbergh, uh, Crimes and Misdemeanors by Woody Allen, Dead Poet Society, which won, When Harry Met Sally by Nora Ephron, and then and then Do the Right Thing. So one of these things is not like the other in that respect. Um, but I think Spike Lee did a great job here. Obviously, this ended up kind of launching him into being, though, a very highly respected director within the industry, especially through the '90s. Um, so I think that, like, despite its loss, I think its legacy lives on very strongly.
Sometimes you don't need to win. Most of the time, the best ones and the ones that people remember are the ones that don't win.
And like, if I think it's only in rare situations where you look at like the Academy Awards and you look at like the films that were nominated and you're like, oh, like none of these deserve to be here or anything like that. Like, like I did look forward to the next year, and you guys know what won the following year best screenplay, original screenplay? Ghost.
Wow. That was a well-loved movie.
Yeah, that's
Fantastic.
kind of I was very surprised to see that.
Well, and like we said, Dead Poets is also a great movie, and I think they both have a lasting legacy. I don't even think you could say Dead Poets died off. It didn't,
No, it didn't.
but point absolutely taken that Do the Right Thing continues to be as relevant as if it were released today. That's what has made it. That is what it should have made it best screenplay in hindsight. But all the structural factors Garrett talked about mixed with everything else. Yeah.
I think if we go back in time, I think I give it to Do the Right Thing, because Dead Poet Society, like you just said, its legacy probably lives on without winning an Academy Award just as well too.
Yeah.
It's. I think that really you could go either way on that, but I'd give it to Do the Right Thing. This was a film. I'm not a slice of life guy. I'm not a movie with like a slow pace type guy, like slow pace type thing. This had me. Well, this might be. I think is the best, movie in it of this type that I've ever seen.
Nice.
Fantastic. All right. Well, I feel like that's as good a spot as any to wrap up our discussion of Do the Right Thing.
Yeah.
Let's give our final rating. What are we feeling? Your choice, Garrett. So do you want to do the honors first?
Sure. Another reason that I picked this one was for some counter programming. We had picked some older movies from white-based dominant movies, as you might expect. And this one I wanted to throw in there for a purpose. I had never seen it. It was counter programming, and man, I walked away, you know, with so many questions at the end and kind of feeling like, where did I land on this and how much did I really like it? And this conversation, again, the way that it just creates conversation, the way that it lasts, the way that it has been reinforced, way ahead of its time. It's hard not to give it 5 stars. I was a 4.5. I was a stern 4.5 until the conversation, guys, and then I think we talked myself up into 5-star range just because of the questions and the conversation that it creates, and that is purposeful in the writing.
I think I'm going to agree because I think that it's great writing and it is a fantastic ensemble of performances. You could make an argument that maybe Spike Lee's like the weakest performer in this, and I still thought Mookie was. I couldn't wait to see what Mookie was going to do next because he kept leaving work. I'm like, why? Stop
Yeah.
doing- They're giving you a hard time about leaving work, and you keep doing it anyway. But every aspect of the world was interesting. All the character performances were just fantastic. So I think I'd also go with the 5 stars.
Wow. Yeah, the last time I watched this movie, I logged it on Letterboxd at 4.5, but the discussion has also bumped me up to 5 for all of the reasons talked about already. It's a great movie that continues to be relevant for, unfortunately, all of the worst reasons imaginable.
That's true.
But it's a great movie. It continues to try to teach a lesson. Whether or not we learn it is to be seen, but the lesson is there. Should anyone want to learn,
Yeah.
it's there. So yeah, 5
So
stars
this,
for me.
I believe, is our first all 5 stars from
Of the
us
year?
of the year.
Wow.
Nice.
I'll have to go back and find other times we've done that. I know last year we did it for Paddington too. So, um, but it's not often that all three of us give out a 5 stars. So that's really great.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
All right,
Letterbox game time.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's our attack order here?
Oh, well,
I'd like to thank the Academy for
we are
this.
Stop rubbing it in. We're completely tied at this point. I won last week, so I'll go last. Garrett is the one who is in the longest drought of not winning. So Garrett, you'll go first.
Awesome.
4.2.
Well, you think? Oh, you were gonna.
I don't
Okay.
even. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I was
Sorry.
gonna say I was gonna read some
Then
reviews
maybe
while
I
you
can
guess.
revise. Yeah.
4.5 stars. Oh wow, my will to live is gone. 5 stars. The cops in this movie should have done the right thing. Quit. If 4 stars. If you're a pizza place charging extra for cheese, don't be surprised when you get arson. And then finally, 5 stars quoted. It's a free country, isn't it? I should knock you out for saying that dumb shit alone.
It's so difficult when we get in these situations because it's hard to go above too much. I do think I'm going to bump it up, though, to a 4.3.
All right, Josh, what do you think?
Okay, Garrett got the 4.3. I'm gonna give some space, and I'm gonna do a 4.0.
Oh, okay. So it's got to be above 4. I'm gonna, man, 4.1.
Okay.
4.1 banger range.
4.3 from Garrett, 4.0 from me, and 4.1 from David. We do not have a direct hit this week. We all undercut this movie, which gives it to Garrett by default. But it is a 4.4.
Okay.
4.4.
All right.
Awesome.
All right.
So very close. Very close.
Yeah.
Well, so many. It feels like lately we're hitting a ton of these movies that are in like over 4.4.
Listen,
range.
we've started this season with some incredible movies by some incredible people. I mean, we jumped in with Rob Reiner.
We themed well.
Yeah, we did. Rob Reiner as just banger after banger, and then we went right into Oscars, which is known for great movies. Don't worry, we'll suck the rest of the year.
Hey, there's always a chance for like a Meet the Fockers type theme month or a Friday the 13th. You never know. We will find our series of movies that are somewhere between 2.0 and 2.9. We'll find them.
Yep. There's more to come. All right. Well, that will do it for us. So go check out the website, somanysequels.com. Subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at SoManySequelsPod. Let us know what you've been watching. Let us know if you're excited about the Oscars. Again, we'll be talking about our reactions to the winners once that drops. So yeah, lots of fun stuff coming up. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.